What's up, guys? Today we are covering a Delhi build order guide, and we are covering MarineLorD's game over here against Lenok. I covered a few different games of his, watched replays, and he does the same typical opening to get to feudal age. After that, there's a little bit of variance as far as production building goes, and blacksmith. It's all dependent on the matchup there, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as this goes on. But right off the bat, you see 5 villagers go and chop the straggler tree nearest to the berries, and that's very key here in just a second. I'll talk about it. And the other villager builds a mosque, and then he also will be queued up to build a house as well. After the villagers end up chopping the tree, they will go and build a mill. And you'll see this here where they don't end up going home and dropping off the wood. They build the mill and they'll immediately drop off the wood, which saves them an extra trip there and some walking time. That's why you chop the straggler nearest to the berries at the start. After the first ville ends up coming out going to berries, after the Moskville builds the house, he will go to berries as well, and then the next ville that comes out will go to berries up to 8 there. So you'll go 8 on the food, and then the next 2 will end up going over to gold. Obviously, scouting around, pulling in as much sheep as possible. If you're playing against roost, kill the deer, things like that. But, just obviously you want to gather as much sheep on the map, as that will create a big benefit as far as safe food gathering and denial of long-term food for your opponent. So I'll speed this up just a bit here. As I mentioned, 8 onto the berries. We see the mill, and the big thing about Delhi is, we haven't mentioned this, is starting up all of the technologies. The typical, all the buildings you build right off the bat, their typical start, you build wheelbarrow, you get efficient production as well as piety after that. And since you built the mosque first, you will have both of those before feudal age hits. You're not able to end up getting the mining camp specialized pick upgrade. And you'll notice, well, we are going to get forestry a little late, but that is the less important of all the upgrades out right now. So 802, the next villagers all will end up going here to the straggler tree until you get 50 wood. You'll build the lumber camp there, but you still will continue to queue up over here to wood for quite some time, because you want to get production buildings out once you hit feudal, as well as a blacksmith. You'll notice here in just a bit, we will have enough for feudal age. Fast forward a bit, you'll notice there is the 50 lumber, and with all of the bills there, goes ahead, builds the lumber camp, and continues to queue over to the wood line. For the Dome of the Faith, he pulls 4 of his food bills off of food, builds the Dome of the Faith, shift clicks them right back to the food. The 4 food villagers will give you more than enough of a surplus to continue to make villagers. You see the gold annoyance from your opponent, which isn't a big deal here as Delhi, especially when you have the scholar. If you ever have a villager that low or in question, you can bring the scholar over to heal up, or just replace the vill out with yet another. You see MarineLord here now has 8 onto the wood line, so a nice healthy wood amount, and right when he is going to hit up feudal, he is going to be able to drop a production building. Obviously in the matchup against French, the thing he will focus on is a barracks. In more passive matchups, you sometimes see the double blacksmith, so this is really where it is dependent on what civilization you're playing. Against the Rus, you might see horsemen right off the bat to deny the scouts that they have out, and to deny the archers that they typically go in feudal, and so on and so forth. So as you see here in the matchup against French, he's going with spears, he's going with horsemen, and you'll notice efficient production already finished up through. He went ahead and popped a scholar in to get a couple spearmen out and getting that hardened upgrade. This is one thing that is sometimes hard to monitor and pay attention to as at the lower elos, making sure you're utilizing that scholar to bounce back and forth. You see he reacts to the night raid, is able to bounce back out, and now he has his spears there as well. So right now, he's dropped both his production buildings. It's at the 6-minute and 20-second mark. He has spearmen out. He just swapped the scholar back into the stables now to get a couple horsemen queued up and out as well. And to cause some additional denial, they will be able to chase down those knights. And now with the next 150 wood, which we already see here, he drops the blacksmith. This is the key for the Delhi, because this gets those free techs started. Obviously when he hit feudal, right off the bat, once you hit feudal age, sanctity is their biggest, most important upgrade. That is what allows the scholars to capture those sacred sites in the feudal age and produce them that extra gold. So at this point, this is kind of the early game of the build order. This is really the meat of it, of what you need to know, because it's always going to be hard to adapt from what your opponent does. There's always going to be some variant, some sort of reaction or proactive move that you might have to make based off a civilization you're playing against or based off of what your opponent ends up doing. So this is kind of where you sometimes see the third production building come out, whether it be an archer range, second blacksmith. You'll end up seeing Marine Lord here move out to the sacred sites here in 30 seconds, because that is when the sanctity will end up coming through. And now he has a good meaty army. He's built defensive walls, but you also have the choice of building, proactive walls around the sacred sites against less feudal pressure civilizations. Obviously, the French are going to have knights out. It's hard for him to move out earlier, but against more passive civs, you can really take control of these sacred sites earlier. So that's really kind of the overall build order. I'll end up posting the guide from the AoE 4 World Tools to give you a nice overview, a nice walkthrough of this specific one. And obviously, there is going to be some variants, so you can tune it, you can tweak it to however you may like. But obviously, if Marine Lord's doing it, he's getting good wins with it. He is one of the top players. It makes sense to do, and it is a pretty clean build as far as the very early Dark Age goes, and getting all those research techs out, which is the key for Delhi. So thanks everyone for stopping by. If you watch this on Twitch, appreciate y'all. If you watch this on YouTube, throw the thumbs up, the subscribe button, comment down below on what you might like to see next.